patient.
I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about.
Right, here we go. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to I should say this is a different version of the Matt Brown Show. This is the Christmas show, which I do every year with these other three clowns, aka my best friends.
Unbelievable.
I know, right? God, we did this last year. It was a debacle, so I thought we'd do it again. But it's great to have you all here, guys. So let's do some quick intros for our viewers around the world. Just give us the elevator pitch about you and your businesses and what's up and all that kind of stuff. Let's go, Adrian. You were late. You were late.
Waiting for the power to kick back in. Okay, hi guys. I'm Adrian Gemini, and I'm a wedding and events planner / DJ. So, any events that we are partaking in, I basically help coordinate with the wedding coordinators, the setups and breakdowns of really sort of boutique high-end weddings. And then obviously I DJ at these events as well. And it's a story. It's busy, it's crazy, and we're very grateful for how the year has turned. But I suppose we'll get into that a bit later.
Yes. Brendon, seeing as by the way, if you guys are watching or catching this on the audio, head on over to YouTube. Can you see what Brendon's wearing? Because he really did embody the spirit of Christmas today.
Well, I mean, this is a very professional show. It's a very professional platform. So I think it's only right that I bring the professionalism. I mean, I'm not here to fuck around. I'm here for serious. This is a serious fucking podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I spent eight years building this audience, and then there you go, fuck it all up.
Exactly. What you've taken 8 years to build, I'll get rid of in 30 minutes.
Yes,
My name is Brendon. That's my son, Saxon. And I sell booze for a living. So it's the busiest time of year for us, which is fantastic. Matthew's been hounding me. Thank you, my angel. Close the door. Matthew's been hounding us for the last couple of weeks to get on this call. Busiest time of year. But yeah, we're in the booze game. We import some spirits, high-end single malts, whiskeys, vodkas, etc. And then we also, for those of you watching, we also produce some of our own local booze. So that's an example of what we do. So yeah, been established now for 3-4 years or so. It's obviously a little bit tough with COVID, but we're enjoying a bit of a bounce back. It's been a tricky start to 2022, but a decent end. So hopefully this is a sign that we're going to have a decent 2023. Thumbs up, everybody.
Let's do it. It's 2023. Jason, quickly, off you go.
So my name's Jason. I'm Matthew's first best friend.
I don't know about that anymore. How's this guy? You just dissed you about 2 weeks ago. You said you're off the list.
Who's off the list?
You.
And I'm Adrian's number one best friend. So I'm everyone's best friend that nobody visits.
You're my best friend, Jason.
Thanks, Brendon. So I have a company called Deep Thought Media. We are a digital marketing agency in Cape Town. So we do all sorts of online marketing, from Google Ads, social media marketing, anything you can think of. We help new businesses and small businesses grow their business into big businesses. That's pretty much it.
Is that your positioning line, Jason?
Yeah, that's it. It needs some work.
Let me just show everyone your website. Digital marketing agency and web designer. And could you not just drop "and web designer"? Because it's like if you say digital marketing agency, it sort of implies.
So one thing we do, our biggest part of our business is web design and SEO. So the reason those words are there is for the SEO. So that gets us to page 1 of Google.
Oh, really?
What I think you should say, Jason, is I think you should say people helping people. I think that's honestly all you need to say.
Our tagline is, it's our business to grow your business, which is good.
Brendon, what's your website? What's your website, Brendon?
thestillhouse.co.za. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I was so caught up in the Christmas fervor. But the business is called thestillhouse.co.za.
I'm a big fan of your 48 gin. I have a bottle.
But you don't drink?
I drink.
Oh, the bottle.
I only drink your gin. So when I do drink, it's either red wine or gin. And so I put the black bottle. You don't do that one. That was just...
God.
No, we do the black one. They all are.
Your website registration form, Bren, doesn't work here. Just saying. When you put in your age, And Adrian,
You
what's
can
your
get
website?
Jason to help you there.
Yeah. I know a guy. I know a
You
guy.
know what the funny thing is?
Yeah.
We literally just paid somebody like a month ago. This
It
guy's like,
doesn't
no,
work.
I'm gonna change the game.
No.
You're paying the wrong rose.
Yeah, what are you doing? We in
Trading
this,
wrong.
pay your friends.
Next dimension dot Cape Town.
Sorry.
Next dimension dot Cape Town. Oh, there we go. So it's probably just not working on his US browser. What are you still on?
Yeah.
Explorer there, buddy. Microsoft Explorer.
Jason, did you do
I
this
was gonna
website?
say, like, no jokes.
Yeah,
I literally just paid somebody.
Yeah, we built Adrian's website. We built Matt's website.
Yes, it's a cool site, eh? I like
Why
it.
is that a Coke Light and not a gin and tonic? It's so lame.
So,
I don't drink alone.
oh really?
You're not alone. You're
Well-
sitting with 3 of your mates.
Yeah, come on. You actually,
But
you guys should be boozing here. I'm serious. You know I don't, but you guys should, especially considering here it's 7 in the morning.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers,
Adrian,
cheers.
can I tell you
Cheers.
something, bro? Can I tell you something? My brother-in-law is here. He starts. Be careful what I say. Is that right next door? He starts boozing at like 7 or 8 in the morning, and he just
Fuck.
goes all day.
Yo.
And then
Nice.
it's like at dinner, I try and pull dinner forward, but at dinner at like 8, he's like, I can't eat. So he gave me some of these. What do you call those? Like jelly babies, gummies. What do you call them? Gummies. Like weed
Yeah,
gummies.
gum.
Edibles.
Yeah, so I've edibles. Gave me a couple. I haven't had the courage yet to have one, and I thought about having one today, and then I was like, nah,
No,
it's
you
gonna
Good,
be a
should.
man.
disaster.
No, you
There will
definitely
come a
should.
day when I'll have that thing. I'm
Well-
just scared I'll go off the rails. I'll take
Come
it
to
out,
Cape Town, you
uh,
can do it, yeah, buddy.
at like 4:15 on Thursday, the 22nd of December. Next thing I know, it's New Year's. You know what I mean? I'm walking up a far-side party in a forest in Cape Town, and I've lasted a week
Woo!
and a half. I don't have that courage.
Yeah.
It's not acid, eh? It's gummies.
What is
Well-
it actually? You're the aficionado, because apparently it's got
Yeah,
is it THC.
Oh,
yeah. It lasts you a couple of hours, buddy. It's just nice for a bit of enlightenment.
So, Adrian, how did I was listening to last year's Christmas show in preparation because I wanted to make this year really sing. But your Canister Cafe, is that still an ongoing concern for you?
Unfortunately, I've had to take a side step from that because the events industry came, back within full force. We were still in lockdown, I think, when we had the last chat. And on the 29th of December, the president said, okay, cool, we are opening the borders and we're opening up events and stuff like that. So basically since December to now, we've had like an open season. It's if you call it in 3 years, this is our first year open completely. So unfortunately, my events business has demanded my complete attention. I haven't quite dropped the cannabis whole thing yet. I'm still very passionate about it. And, there will come a time when I can pick it up again, probably around April, May, when it quietens down. And then I'll give it back my full focus. It's something I'm very, very passionate about, and it deserves a lot more of my time, which I'm not just capable of giving right now.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Obviously, you guys, everyone knows I moved to the States this year, and
I'll be right back.
And in Colorado, they're super progressive over here. So like it started with decriminalization of like THC. Like they were the first state to do it, along with like gay rights and all this kind of stuff. And then what's coming is actually the decriminalization or legalization of psilocybin or mushrooms. So technically, you could go into like a Circle K, fill up your car, and go buy a bag of mushrooms.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
hectic.
nuts.
I had this
That's
CEO.
cool, eh?
Yeah, I had this guy on the show recently. His name's Chad Harmon. He's the founder and CEO of a startup called Psychceutical. And there's a whole bunch of startups and investments and capital going into the development of treatments for various things using psychedelics. So what they've developed is this drug delivery mechanism that essentially sits on the back of your neck. It's like a patch, and they can put different types or different dosages of psilocybin, MDMA, ketamine, like whatever it might be.
What?
Yeah, and it delivers it through the blood-brain barrier without any,
Most
without
excited
any.
I've seen Adrian in this fucking.
Look how excited, I was just gonna say, look how excited he is.
If if you guys understand the full benefits of psilocybin and other medicinal kind of herbs, and if you could deliver it in that sense where you've got something that carries the active ingredients in those natural products past the blood-brain barrier, you don't have to kind of figure out dosages by taking it orally and then possibly getting it wrong and extending the time that you need to get your dosage right. In some circumstances, it could be life-saving and life-changing. So that is extremely interesting technology.
Yeah, he's actually a former vet, so a lot of the guys come back from war zones with post-traumatic stress syndrome and depression.
Okay, so he's a veteran, not a vet.
Veteran, yeah, sorry. And then, well, yes.
I
Thank
thought
you
the
for
same thing,
your
don't worry.
service, Adrian. Whatever. It's the Nat Brown show. Fuck it, not yours. Okay. But a lot of people are suffering, dude. Like mental health is a huge.
It's a worldwide crisis.
And by the way, taking like what's the popular like opioids and shit, like it's creating like a whole crisis on its own. So you're solving one problem with another, and and if there is a viable alternative, natural quote unquote way to help mental health, like it should be explored. And like in the 1950s and the 60s, when like the hippie culture, the whole thing, everybody was dropping LSD. And then it was criminalized because people were like, what the fuck? This is like actually weird. And we don't know how to control these people. And it was all like, stop the Vietnam War, blah, 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 blah. There was this movement in culture. And they banned it because they wanted to control people. And since then, there's been almost zero research into it. So we kind of lost out on 50 years, similar to the space development or the space economy, right? Like since we put a man on the moon, there was nothing until SpaceX, really. So it's an interesting development. So I'm all for it.
Ru, can we talk about Elon Musk, seeing as we've stumbled upon SpaceX? Top 5 worst.
Please.
Really?
Fucking love this guy.
Talk about it.
Why?
I love this guy. He's a
Why don't you
champion.
like him?
Come on. Tell
At
me
the
if you like
start
him or
of
not.
the year- No, bro. I can tell you, like the last 2-3 years, I've been the biggest fucking SpaceX, Elon Musk, fucking Neuralink, all that shit. Like the biggest advocate, the biggest mouth person, spokesperson. But I just feel like of late, and perhaps it's more our fault, because every time I turn on the news, every time I turn on CNN, every time I put on News 24, anytime I put on Fox News in particular, it's only ever about Elon Musk. It's driving me crazy. He's in the news all the time. So
This is
I get that
unfortunate.
he needs to be there to a certain extent, Brew, but come on. I mean, there must be a line. What do you expect?
I think what
I
he's
think it's just the
doing is
media.
good. Yeah, sorry, Brett. Jason, over to you, Brett. Go.
And I was going to say the media just jump on anything he says. It's just like they blow everything out of
Yeah.
proportion. It can be the smallest thing. So it's not even necessarily him trying to be in the media. It's just the media just want those clicks.
Well, what I see here, just as an observation, is how much the media is controlled by political interests. So the narrative that you find from Fox is very like right wing, versus the New York Times. Fuck, Elizabeth Warren. I don't know if you know her. She's a U.S. senator here. So the New York Times publishes this like hits piece, and it's Elizabeth Warren. I mean, like this is just and she's like, oh, I've got questions about Tesla. Has he misrepresented the facts? Has he and it's like a New York Times published piece. You know what I mean? Like that's where it started. And it's like, yo, dude, like take your questions and fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, why are you interfering in like a Tesla share or like shareholder conversation? Like, what do you actually have to do with it? You know what I mean?
I think ultimately,
yeah, go for it, man.
I think ultimately right now, Elon Musk is definitely the smartest person on the planet. He's not picking on small ideas and making them big. He's picking the biggest ideas and making them a bigger success. You know what I mean? And for his involvement in Twitter and all the upheaval that he's causing, and people saying he must step down, whatever. Let me just tell you something. He's a righteous person, and from what we can see already is that he's creating like the biggest freedom and true speech we've seen in the last maybe 10 years, where before, I mean, if you see all the shit that's coming about Jack Dorsey and the American, what do you call them, the Pentagon, and all these ways and means of how the Pentagon have manipulated Twitter to use it in their own circumstance to control narratives and stuff like that of what's going on in the world. You know, these aren't like conspiracy theories anymore. It's real facts that are coming out. And, you know, I just think that finally there's someone speaking up for mankind and allowing people to like not just fucking walk over everybody and saying, look, here's the real platform. Here's the truth. This is what's going on behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Have you seen the Twitter files? Or have you been following that?
It's hectic, man. It's really crazy what's happening.
Well, but it's interesting in the sense of there's finally some form of transparency on how you know, government organizations like the FBI, for instance, have been engaging with technology monopolies like Twitter to control the narrative and to control the spread of certain information during elections. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's like that shit that's an important conversation to have. You know what I mean? It's not just about, well, it's about free speech, or isn't it? Or and then another one like what was happening. It's called doxing. So basically, I don't know how much media you guys see, because what I see is different to what you see. Again,
I just follow anything that goes against. I follow anything that goes against the norm. If someone's got something to say that's against the narrative, then I have a listen. I don't listen to anything that the narrative has to say, because they're fucking all liars.
So like he banned.
That's it, Adrian. Only absorb the news that makes sense to you. Block out everything else.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so then, so doxing is like where you share real-time location information. And there was this incident where a stalker or predator or whatever followed his son in a car and then pulled in front of it like he was going to do something. And it was all because the information of his location was being shared on Twitter. And then as a consequence, and it wasn't about whether it was just real time or not, it was like a lot of journalists started resharing shit. And they banned, or Twitter temporarily suspended a lot of their accounts. And there was this total uproar. You know what I mean? It's like, you say it's freedom of speech, but actually you're just preventing speech, you know? So I think it's an ongoing conversation that I don't think we're going to see the end of it for quite some time.
No, it's not worth giving all your energy to. You know, if you have to give your energy to this kind of daily nonsense, like Brendon was saying, you switch on the news, switch on Facebook, it's fucking every single articles. Should Elon Musk do this? Should he do this? Shouldn't he have stepped down already? Shouldn't he step up already? Blah 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 blah. It's just too much, man, and it's just wastes your own time and your ability to give what you need in your life to what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So what's the line, right? Because this is something I've been asking myself a lot lately. I don't want to be a moron, and when someone asks me a question about Elon Musk or whatever else might be, like not have a fucking answer. But at the same time, I don't want to absorb any of the content, because quite frankly, I'm not interested. Like, I really couldn't give a shit about Twitter and Elon Musk. I actually, like, in terms of day-to-day, I don't care. I'm not going to pretend like it's like super important and I care about the moral issues. I don't care. I'm not on Twitter. It's not something that's a part of my life. But like, what's the line, right? Because like you say, Adrian, it's like sometimes I feel like there's a hammer, and it's just this barrage of information all the time. What do we filter? What don't we filter? Because it's hard, right? It's hard to understand what's important.
Same on Facebook, man. If you just
the same.
Yeah, completely agree.
I think this information overwhelm is also going back to the mental health issue. Like, I also think about that, you know, like, what information am I consuming, you know, and how much of it am I consuming? Because I think with this information deluge, it feels to me like there's more aloneness than there's ever been before. Like, we're just alone with our phones, you know. And we're addicted to information and technology and screen time, and I see it in my kids and things like this. And I think it's a large reason why mental health is the way that it is. There was this funny thing, which is why I do this Christmas show every year, is because we don't actually spend quality time together. Like, we've been friends for 25 years plus, and there was this stat that I came across recently where most men, like it was like over half of them, it was like 72% or something like that. Most men of our age and most men in general, adult men, feel like they don't have quality relationships with other men. You know, and there was this another video I was watching with Jordan Peterson, and he was, you know, he speaks around the world and things like this. And he said when he looked at his audience, he said most of his audience are men. And you would expect it to be women, or maybe, you know, a different, or maybe a mixed demographic. It's like it over indexes towards men. And why is that? And I was talking to Nina about this the other day, and the answer is like most men have a lack of meaning and purpose in their lives. It's weird. So we have a lack of friends, you know, a lack of meaning and purpose. We're more alone. There's more mental, you know, health issues than ever before. It's a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, they say men suffer in silence the whole time. You can't talk. They think you can't talk to anybody. We struggle to make friends. I definitely haven't made any new friends. I have the same friends. Now that just talking on the statistics, there was a study that I heard about recently that we all spend so much time on our phones, and the study showed that between the hours of 11 at night and 4 in the morning, your brain, when you have, let's say, bright light, so if you're on your phone scrolling between 11 and 4 in the morning, it actually produces chemicals in your body that makes you depressed. So we have all these people that are so depressed and unhappy all the time. And it's just because they keep scrolling. And then as soon as you stop scrolling, like I find myself guilty sometimes of being on my computer on Facebook, and then I'd go off my computer to pick up my phone on Facebook and then realize what I've just done. You just move from one device to another to look at the same thing. You know?
I only pick up Facebook to look at your profile picture, Jason.
I'm sure I've had the same profile picture for a long time.
Yeah, that's why I'm on WhatsApp. So I look at Brendon's profile picture, and yeah.
You can't see. I'm just looking at a beach. Mine's very deep and meaningful. Very deep. Yeah, yeah. Well, I've just told you, deep and meaningful. That's how deep and meaningful it is.
Yeah. So how have you guys found 2022? I mean, wrap up 2022 for yourselves personally and or in business.
2022 has been one of the hardest years we've ever had. That's facts. That's just how it is. I know I said the same thing last year, but it's almost felt a little bit tougher. It's felt a lot tougher. At least last year or the couple of years before, I felt like I could withdraw into a cocoon and like everyone was doing the same thing. So I didn't feel like I was exposed for like, you know, not being at the front of the pack, if that makes any sense. I found this year really, really difficult. Business-wise, it's been a slog. The first half of the year was extremely difficult, and we haven't recovered. You know, it's the same conversations around, you know, adjusted forecasts and fucking and P&Ls and cash flow analysis, and it's just like there's just never enough, right? There's just never enough. So it's been a grind, is how I'd put it. And I said to Daniela, in fact, we spoke about it earlier on today. We were sitting outside, and we had my brother-in-law's here, so they had the kids, and they were out the house, and we had one of those rare like 30 minutes. And I said to her, what I want to do this year is I actually want to, not a resolution for the new year, but I want to break our year down next year into parts and have like targets, legitimate goals, not say we'd like to see X, Y, and Z happen in 2023. But I feel like what's happened this last year or this year is, you know, I've had a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish, and I was lazy to start. And then when I looked again, it was like halfway through the year, and I was like, fuck it, it's halfway through the year. Let's make the changes next year. And I fucking, like, I don't hate myself for it. That's a little bit harsh, but I am angry with myself. I'm angry with myself. You know, I realize that we're also getting a little bit older. Like when you, and I'm not saying it's a year wasted, but I feel like it's a year wasted. And when you're in your 20s and 30s, you can afford those years. But when you know, 43, 44, like to waste a year feels like an incredibly long time. And I'm nervous that I'm going to look back on this last year and like kind of kick myself and go, you know what, maybe I should have been a little bit more proactive, you know?
Can I butt in there quickly? I think that absolutely this year has been the most challenging year. You know, you must understand you're in a retail kind of industry where you're doing something like specified as alcohol, and it's not just alcohol. You know, you guys are obviously not in the mainstream kind of sector. So coming out of COVID, and I can see it in my industry with the budgets that people have on what they want to spend. You know what I mean? You know, if you got premium brands that you're selling, it's going to take a bit of time to get back to the levels you might have been pre-COVID. You know, people are not spending the same amounts of money in every factor of the whole industry across the board, within buying Christmas presents, everything you could think of. I don't think people are nearly where they were back before COVID. You know, I think it broke us down that much that the recovery period is, you know, it could be 3 to 4 years. You know what I mean? We don't know. You know, you've obviously done the math and you can see you're not happy with where you've been, you know, currently, and yes, you finished off strong. And I can say the same thing. You know, it took a while to kick in, and you know, we had to do, I don't know, out about 10 weddings where the money was paid previous to COVID in 2019, 2021, and you're doing weddings where you have to go do work and you're not getting any money for. You know what I mean? So I think you just need to be a little bit more sort of chilled on yourself. You know, I think if you finish the year strong, you got to keep that grind and keep that like emotion going, so that you know that the next year you're going to fucking double it up and better. So don't be so hard on yourself, but it's been a very tough year.
I concur. I think one of the things I have learned to develop as a skill is kindness towards myself, because you all know me well enough, better than anyone, and you know I'm like super achievement driven. So if I don't feel like I'm achieving something, or if something's not working, like I'm my own worst enemy. And I remember when I first got to the States, we were in this horrible. Well, I was in this fucking horrible place. Mentally, speaking of mental health. So I was winding down the business because it wasn't able to run without me and Nina running it. And then we didn't have a home. We were moving around, trying to find where to live. It was just and then I was trying to start a business also. Kids, like, it was just so disruptive. And I remember I was sitting here, and my sister flew over from, you all know Fiona as well, so she flew over from England. And I was sitting here at the desk, and I just I went to this dark place in my head. I was like, fuck, I'm in a bad way. And I know her well enough as well, obviously, she's being my sister, and she was like, fuck, I have never seen Matt like this. Because I was pushing, and I was beating myself up about why things were the way they were. And sometimes, you know, wouldn't it be great if everything just worked out the way you planned for it, right? Because then we'd all be rich and famous, and probably depressed and miserable with money. And so and it was summer. It was like super hot. The summers here are amazing, and like now it's very cold. But she said to me, Matt, go walk or run or go do what you do. So I went for a run up in the backcountry and whatever, just to clear my head. But I learned in that moment to walk away. And it's a hard thing to do, because when you're pushing. It's like you're the breadwinner, you got 2 kids, your wife, you got to set your life up, It was horrible. And when you put yourself under that amount of pressure, if you don't learn to say, hey, you know what, like today is enough. It's enough. And I'm going to decide to walk away from it all, because it's actually affecting my mental health, you know. And she bless her, she was so supportive. She, you know, Fiona, she's an absolute rock for me, always has been my whole life. And so this skill of being kind to yourself and knowing when to walk away and to say, hey, I did my best for today. It was only 70%, but it was enough for today. And I'm okay with it only being 70%, because tomorrow I get to come back and hit it at 110. You know what I mean? So yeah, Brendon, I agree with Adrian. Like, I think being kind to it, like, it takes 15 years to become an overnight success. You know, if you get your business, like if your business is in a hole, it takes a long time to get it out. Like, we also got hit with COVID. There's a large reason why we had to wind it down. You know, things change, and so it does take time. So you have to be kind to yourself in that context. You're on mute, Brendon, you're on mute. No?
Fast, J, my bro.
Jason, why?
Gives you a gap.
Jason, what are your thoughts?
So, firstly, I just want to touch on so your moving to the USA was like, in my eyes, was quite a serious, brave thing that you did. So, we all look up to you and what you did, because it's a massive thing to pack up, sell everything you have with just suitcases, climb on a plane and fly to another country, and just start new. So, I mean, listening to your videos and voice notes and messages that you sent us while you were there in your journey was like, I would take the time to sit and listen and watch the stuff, because it was such, like, we could see that it's really important to you, and how important it was even to just send those messages. I think it was like part of to keep your mental sanity, to actually just send it to the group and let us respond, so that we could kind of like be there with you in a way. So we're all looking forward to seeing big things from you. It's like, we really do wish you the best of luck there. And hopefully we'll get to see you again sometime in America when we come over for holiday, or maybe make a meet there one day as well. It's in the talks for our sort of 5 to 10 year plan, so maybe we'll see you. Although all these messages of your minus 40-degree weather, now I'm not so sure.
We're going in July, buddy.
Yeah. And then for Brendon, it's we could see when we came up to Plet, we didn't see much of you, because you said you had a lot of work to do and things. Like, I felt like we picked up that there was a lot of pressure on you with your work, and I'm sure you would have spent more time with us if everything was like going smoothly. So, but yeah, it has been a tough year, so I don't want to downplay that. Like, we were lucky enough to have a really good year. From January 2022, we just hit the ground running, and we had so much, I wouldn't say so much business coming, but so much more than what we were used to. So this year for us at our business has been a learning curve, how to deal with all the extra clients, how to deal with the extra work. We lost clients because we couldn't, in some departments of our business, we couldn't fulfill properly. So now we know where we shifted more our proposition as to what do we want to focus our business on, and what type of clients do we want. So it was kind of a shedding of businesses. We got to a point where we're like, okay, we don't actually want these clients anymore, because they're actually detrimental to our time and our business. So some clients we let go, some clients let us go, because when we were going through our teething process, we've got new staff on. Business has been really good. So we ended the year on a high note. We actually had our end of year function yesterday, and we were saying to all of our team that we were so positive, and they'd made such a big impact to our business by just hiring the right people. We got so lucky with hiring the right people to do the job. So it's given me more time. My mental health has gotten a little bit better. There were times in the year where things were, you mentioned, we spoke about like guys not talking about stuff. There were times when I would just kind of feel really like pressurized, and a lot of pressure on me to just be the breadwinner. You got to be the dad. You got to be the boss at work. You got to do stuff for yourself. We had that fitness challenge that I worked so hard on for like 8 weeks, and then we went into winter, and all the pressure from the work. It's like all that work for nothing. Now I'm slid off the wagon again.
Chunk.
Whatever.
Whatever, Chunk.
To you.
But not as bad.
So can we show? Are we allowed to show transformation photos here, Matt?
We don't have photos.
You look amazing, buddy. I can guarantee you look 10 times more amazing than you did in March.
No, that was bad. And you know what? That's when. So on our last podcast, we spoke about that we made a promise that we were going to meet up. So we need to talk about that little trip to Plet.
We did. We met up. I think it was like the best holiday I've had, even though it was only 5 days or 4 days for me. Like, it was incredible.
It was so revitalizing for me to have. The first 2 days were difficult to adapt to, like, because you kept thinking you want to check your phone and your laptop. And then by day 3, I was just like, I'm in full holiday mode. When I got back to Cape Town, I felt like a new man. It was amazing.
How many days did you guys come down for?
It was 5.
It was 10 days, wasn't it?
I left on a Sunday, and I left.
Adrian, that's not a fucking holiday.
We left on a Sunday. We got this Sunday night, and we left on Friday morning back to Cape Town.
And that was probably the best holiday place. Like, but for everyone around the world, like, don't know what Plet means. It's Plettenberg Bay. I'm going to bring up some pictures for everyone, but it's probably, I would say after maybe Cape Town or similar to Cape Town, it's probably like one of the best destination spots you can go to.
Well, the whole garden route, absolutely, yes.
It was beautiful. I'd never been to Plet before. I would never stay there. I drove through.
What? Brendon lives there. I grew up in that region, so it's definitely close to my heart. But, Brendon living there, he'll understand that it is like, it is sleep town in in the winter months. There's like literally nothing that goes on, but as soon as the sun comes out, it's like the most vibrant, amazing, incredible little town. It's just like it's got so much to offer. It's like Hippieville times like 10. It's amazing.
It's like fucking crisis lockdown mode at the moment. I leave the house, like Dean and them wanted to go up the river today to go jumping off that cliff and stuff, which I think you guys did, Matt.
Rad.
And I couldn't do it. I was too fucking busy with work. So I took them up, dropped them, came back, worked, and then went and got them. But when I went there and went back, I was like, I got there. It took me like half an hour to get there. And we had my mind was foggy from some of the crap that I've been dealing with today. And I said, like, I looked at her, picked it up. She was like, this is why I don't leave the house in December. Because
that's crazy.
Out and there's like these youngsters like walking around, and then you go up to the main road. It's like chaos. So yeah, you're right. It goes
peak hour traffic. Yeah.
They had what's that thing called? Plet rage.
Oh,
like I'm sure we did that. So that's
when we used to do it. It was in the cave upstairs there, up at the top, the hotel.
It's like spring break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly. So I was driving with Dee, and we were like going into town and stuff. And it's like all these youngsters, they're all like half naked. And she like caught me like at the side. She was like, "What now?" And I was like I didn't know what to say. And I launched into her, like, just use them today. No clothes.
That sounds like a Matt Brown trip.
I think she bought it. I was like, why do these kids leave their fucking clothes? It's ridiculous.
She's standing behind you.
Yeah. Hey, Brendon. I could tell you. There's no chance she bought that, dude. There's none whatsoever.
Not coming from you, yeah.
She did. I think she bought it.
So,
it's great. It is fantastic, and it's nice. But we need to do another one of those. A little bit difficult for Maddie to come out though.
Yeah, I'm not. I've got my client said to me the other day. He said to me, "Yeah, we need to get planned next year better." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, come December, you should be in Cape Town." I'm like, "I've got," and you guys aren't gonna like this, but I have zero interest, none, and it's aside from seeing you lots. Aside from seeing you and family, I have zero interest in destination South Africa. I think
I could understand that. Yeah,
I can also understand that. You got so much to like go look and explore in America. It's you're in the big wild west there.
But the other thing I will say is this. I don't think. And I also had this conversation a few times with, when I was doing all these interviews with startup founders here in the US. By the way, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm I should say that for the first time in 8 years, I feel like I'm doing the right thing in the right country. I was always.
Do you know how to speak American yet?
American? Yeah, but American. Yeah, of course.
American.
And I just can't really put into words like what it feels like to be where I'm at, and it's not lip service, and it's not because it's necessarily new. It's just because I know what it's like to be an entrepreneur in Africa, and you guys.
Thanks, buddy.
But this is, and I'm saying this because you guys are up against it. I don't think Brendon, talk about your business and recovering from COVID. Adrian, you're talking about your business and the events industry and things like this, and how people aren't spending as much money as they were before. Jason, you're probably the only one with the story that's positive. Like you're growing and you have scaling problems, but like people don't get it. Like if you're sitting in the US or you're sitting in the UK or any other country outside of Africa, and you're complaining about your entrepreneurial journey, shut the fuck up. Because you actually have zero. You have nothing to complain about because you
have all the facilities and infrastructure you need. Yeah.
Oh my God! Like
you have electricity.
You have electricity. Like
just basic.
Just put it in perspective.
Like right now we're sitting with no electricity.
Yeah, the fact that we're having a podcast together is amazing because you guys don't have power. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you have
well, we've
different.
got lots.
Well, we got the power. You just have to
Ah,
provide it yourself.
Brendon's lights just came on, to put it in
Uh,
perspective. Well done.
it's off schedule.
Yeah, man. I mean, and people don't get it. And then
Europe,
like,
Can I just stop you there quickly? Europeans
Yeah.
and Americans look at our load shedding schedule and they think it's a festival. What time are the DJs playing?
yeah, and you really don't get it. So that's why I say, like, being here, it's escapism. It really is escapism, because it's like, holy shit, like I can do things now. I'm able to not deal with systemic infrastructure issues like electricity. I mean, if I said to if you're a startup founder sitting in the US listening to us right now, and I say to you, okay, so for 8 hours a day, you and your entire team don't have electricity, and this is ongoing.
Still blows my mind, and it's been like a year. Our load shedding started in 2008 in South Africa, and it's been kind of on and off since then. But in the last year, and during COVID, it was just it couldn't have been bad because nobody was at work.
Really.
Well,
But in the last year, the infrastructure, and during COVID, they had time to fucking fix that shit, and they didn't. They fucked it up.
yeah.
Now we're sitting with more. Well, sabotage, and if for instance the whole grid goes down, it takes 3 months before the grid can be picked up again. 3 months. That means you're cooking on gas. That means you don't have any telecommunication between anything. Not your internet works because the towers or the battery backups don't have enough battery to last. Even if they put solar power in there, we'll have a 3-month blackout countrywide. We'll deepest, darkest Africa.
It's and that's the thing for me. And I think it's there was a stat when I built this marketplace for small business loans, and long story short, I was doing research into the impact of COVID on small business loans here in the US. So in the US, you have something called SBA lending. I've got this this partner called Grasshopper Bank, which I'm basically going to be doing cool shit with next year. And the stat is this: if you have a business that generates $1 million in revenue, okay, $1 million, that's about 18 million rand or whatever. I don't even know what that is in Monopoly money.
That's too much.
Monopoly money. It's 18 million rands.
Is that what it is? So yeah, so if you have a business doing $1 million in revenue, you're in the top 10% of all businesses, listed or otherwise. That's all. So Bren, your business does $1 million. Jason, you can't be far off. Adrian, I'm not sure where you're at, but
about a third of the way there.
But
I'm lucky.
But I read that stat and I was like, "Fuck, we're doing
Just
like."
say that again.
If you have a business that does $1 million in revenue, you're in
A year.
a year
Annually.
You're in the
Yeah.
top 10% of all businesses in North America, right? So listed or otherwise.
Wow.
So it just goes to show how hard it is to actually get something to scale to $1 million. My business, last one, was doing like, I don't know, 2.3. And when I read that, I was like, I'm so fucking proud of myself, because I did that in COVID with no electricity, with a distributed team, and in a market where it's hard to scale anything. There's a reason why the informal trade sector in Africa dwarfs the formal trade, right? Like by billions. Like it's astronomical. I interviewed a guy who wrote the book called Cassonomic Revolution. Basically, informal trade is basically the transfer of goods and services and the exchange of currency or money or fiat without a bank. So that sector dwarfs that of the formal trade. Like, it's crazy, right? But it's big, and that exists because it's Africa, right? And I'm laboring the points a bit, but I want people to understand, like, if you're sitting where I'm sitting, and that's why I'm grateful. Like, I'm thankful for being here. And yes, Jason, you're right. It was a hard thing, but nothing worth doing comes easy. You know this.
So tell us a bit about your journey, Matt. I know you've touched on it now, but tell us, your first business trips, your first official kind of interaction in that US market while being there? Give us some feedback on that. How must that, that must have been quite enthralling. You're now in a new country, you've done the legwork, you've got there, you've set up, and now what's happening?
So yeah, I learned a lot from my last business failure, which we had 55 people. It just couldn't run without my wife and myself in it. So we had to make the tough call, and that's really sucked. But I learned a lot about what scale means, number one. So I think ambition is a double-edged sword. And I learned the hard way what happens, because we were scaling up and COVID happened. It was a whole sob story. And also a lot of our revenue in that business was project-based. So coming here, the first 90 days was horrible. It was really hard trying to figure out how to position.
How long are we in the journey now?
4 months, 5 months, 5 months. Yeah.
Fuck, that's not bad.
So now so basically what happened was that this podcast, I cannot put into words the ROI on the show. It's so huge for me personally as an entrepreneur. So basically, it was the only thing I had. I had no network, because when you move countries, you lose it all. And I remember my mentor saying to me once, he's like, yeah, I was asking him whether I should scale my previous company in America. And he was like, yeah, I know guys with more money than you, that are smarter than you, with bigger businesses than you, and they can't scale in the US. They all had their asses handed to them. What makes you special? And one of the major things was, hi baby girl, was no network, and I had no network. Like a handful of people who had been on my show, but not really like.
Hi Regan.
Reagan, not Regan. There,
Reagan.
baby girl. Oh, there you go.
Hello,
Oh, she's growing up. She's the light of my life.
We miss you.
See, they miss you, my girl. Do you remember Plate? Oh, shame, Papa. Okay, Daddy's gonna come now. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, yeah. So
Fuck, we're not.
So what I did was I sent a mail. So basically, there's so much data here. So I sent an email to 1,600 startups who had raised money, like $1 million. And to put that number in context, in the whole of Africa, there's 100 startups that have raised $1 million or more in the last 12 months. In the US, there's 12,500. Okay, so the right place. And so I sent a mail out going, hey, I run the Map Round Show, and obviously with all the guests that have been on the show, Jeffrey Moore, New York Times authors, it's a big deal. And I said, hey, why don't you come on the show and I'll interview you to give your startup some free PR exposure. Here's the link to my calendar, book your shit. Oh my fuck. Like I woke up the next morning and my diary was flooded. It was back to back.
Lovely.
It was insane. And that's where it started. And then I just started talking to guys and girls like who are in my space, the space I care about, entrepreneurship, startups, technology, business, changing the world. And that's where it started. And just through conversation, I started to listen to what they were struggling with. And it was really about media. And guess what? I'm in the media business. You guys all know what I've done with media back home. And that's kind of where it all started. And it started with as a fractional chief media officer thing. Fractional I'd never heard of before. It was a trend term here. So the idea being as a startup is that you don't have the money to drop 200 grand a year on a CMO full time, but you want the thinking at a fraction of the cost. So hence fractional chief media officer. So the moment I positioned that, and I went through about 9 different pivots, positioning, test, horrible. But eventually it was like I got someone to say yes. And then I'm like, shit. So basically what happens is I discount my fee and I put most of my fee against the achievement of a milestone or a KPI. Like usually it's revenue. And that's kind of where it all started. I got 2 clients very quickly out in New York. You guys know I flew out there a couple times to create shows. So, media platforms for these startups. And one of my clients added $72,000 in revenue in the first week. So there was proof. So there was proof. And then startups here, this is now what 23 is looking like. So here's the thing. I don't want to scale that. I don't want to scale the media side of the business. The business is called Showworks Media, showworksmedia.com. But I don't want to scale that because I learned from the previous business what that means. So if you're scaling a service like your business, Adrian, or your business, Jason, it's people and capital intensive. And when that's the case, you wind up, it's difficult to scale this people culture, blah, blah, blah. It's a horrible thing. And I don't want to go there again. So here's what's happening. So most startups are always in a raise. Like they need money to raise capital, to buy time or runway to develop product, to scale, get more customers, revenues. Different. When you say startup, there's different types of startups at different stages with different focuses and things like that. So it's actually quite nuanced and complex. But in many cases, they look to raise money. So what's happening is next year I'm busy studying now to write my Section 82 license, which means that I can actually start to have investment conversations for the selling of equity securities or or private placements. So and there's so much money in this space, and I believe that you go where the money is. All right. So how this basically works is, I already have 3 startups that are paying me a small retainer every month, and then I'm helping them raise money. So what I'm creating for them is media. It's an investment show for the startup. So it's like the Road Shield investment show, and we're creating content for investors. That's the first step. And then what I do is I facilitate relationships or connections with investors, and I take 5% of whatever the investable capital is. So to put that in perspective, $10 million is $500,000. So you do that every month or whatever the case is, you can start to see how things leverage quite quickly.
Yeah, I'm living in the wrong country.
Can't do that in South Africa, man. Doing the right thing in the right country. And so that's kind of what it's looking like next year. So next year I want to do my own version of the Shark Tank, and literally, because the other thing I've learned is that the investment process sucks. Everyone hates it. It's kind of like you got to do a pitch deck, then you got to find investors. Sometimes you have a lead investor from a previous round, and then maybe your next round gets easier, but then and then it's a ball ache. So on top of building a business, you actually have to deal with raising money. So it's a headache and frustration. But the process is dated, antiquated, commoditized in many respects. Everyone's doing the same thing the same way. I just don't believe in that shit. You have to be different. So I want to change all that next year. So I'm creating this investment show, kind of like the Shark Tank or Entrepreneur Elevator Pitch. I've literally this month got Carafin coming on board. They are a network of over 10,000 investors, hedge funds, VCs, angel investors, credit investors, family offices, things like that. So I'm doing a direct private investment show for them. They've done, I don't know, it's hundreds of millions, a shit ton of money that they put into startups just this year. So that's kind of what my next year looks like. So
amazing.
Yeah. So, and it all started with the podcast, and people seem to think like, it's about downloads and CPMs and generating ad revenue. It's such bullshit. People don't get it, man. They really don't.
You also got yourself a network overnight just by connecting all of those entrepreneurs.
Yeah, but doing the mail to like 10,000 people, great. For something that you're giving them a solution to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So it is about giving before receiving, but it all comes from a simple thing. People love to talk about themselves. Like they need this exposure. So I'm very grateful for having the opportunity, but I'm also cognizant of what I had to go through to get there.
Of course.
And this is why I say it takes 15 years to become an overnight success, because I'm nowhere near where I feel like I could go.
Another 5 years, eh?
5 years time, boys. I'll be flying you over, all expenses paid. You come.
5 years in, it will be my 15 years in the industry, bro.
You can always make a sex tape, Adrian. You can make a sex tape, Adrian, and then you can.
I just bought a camera, and Antonio asked me what it's for. I said live streaming and sex tapes.
It'll sell.
So what
do you think it'll sell, Adrian?
I don't know. Maybe if it maybe in Canada for like 20 cents a piece. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm looking for views, bro. I'm looking for views. 1 cent a view. 100 million cents in a view,
So what in 2022, guys, was your greatest failure, would you say, quote unquote? And what did you learn from it? Jason, let's start with you.
My greatest failure. Okay, I'm going to give you the two aspects. The one I sort of touched on them both actually earlier. The one was in our business, we not looking after certain clients correctly because we weren't prepared for the influx of new customers. So we lost some very valuable clients, but we learned from it and we've been moving forward. And then the second one was in my personal capacity was my health. I really let things slide because we let the business slide. And the more I didn't let the business slide, but the more we didn't know how to cope with what we got on, the more time I had to spend in business, the less time I spent on my own health and with my family. So now, we keep talking about this, even the last part, the balance, there's no balance. You're just kind of juggling all the time.
Push through, yeah.
Yeah. So my plan for 2023 is to just keep working more at working for the business and not in the business, so that I have more time to myself, delegating more to everybody else, assigning, just having the right people to work for us, so that I can spend more time with my family and more time getting new customers for the business and more time on my personal health. And because I think that if you aren't exercising or eating correctly, how do you deal with stress in a highly stressful business? You just can't do it. You're going to be depressed. You're going to hate your job. You're going to hate your life. You need to go out. You need to walk. You need to run. You need to exercise. You need to eat better. You've got to do all that stuff.
Otherwise, you eat all the cheeseburgers.
Yeah, especially when you're in your 40s, you have to do it. It gets harder and harder and harder,
Brendon?
Can't eat cheeseburgers at 3 o'clock in the morning anymore, on the way back.
Oh, well, I can.
When last I've had a fucking cheeseburger. No McDonald's in town. No fucking Burger King. I mean, maybe it's...
Yes, you're not missing much, eh?
No, I never thought my kids would get excited about that kind of shit. But when we have to go through to George, they're like, "Oh, Dad, I'll drive with you." And then I'm like, "Why?" And they always say, "Well, we want to go to McDonald's." So my kids are happy to sit in a car for an hour and 20 minutes for McD's.
Brendon, what's your greatest failure been this year, bud?
Work-wise, not a hell of a lot. I think we've done the best that we can. I think my biggest failure this year is kind of getting stuck in that cycle of being unhappy about shit, and instead of fucking doing something about it, moaning about it. That's been my big problem this year, which is my worst character trait. It's something that I've always had, and when shit gets harder, sometimes that tends to be like a bigger and bigger hurdle. So, my wife and I have had some pretty hectic chats over the course of the last couple of weeks about what I feel needs to change. I mean, it's a bit of a cop-out to say wait for the new year, but sometimes mentally it just feels like you just want to get to this finish line, and maybe it's a cop-out, but maybe it's also an opportunity just to kind of put a line in the sand and say, right, this is the stuff that we're going to do next year to make some change. So I think the biggest problem for me this year was getting into that cycle, like that self-pity, like, fuck, I'm not getting out of it, shit's so hard, but maybe not doing enough to kind of trade our way out of it or work our way out of it or think my way out of it. And we've already taken some quite big steps, things like putting the house on the market, like a few other changes that we've made just to kind of take a step backwards before we take a step forward. So I think next year is going to be a really big year for us. I see a lot of change coming in kind of Q1 next year. And that's kind of where my head is at. So looking back on 2022, I don't want to harp on it too much, but I think getting stuck in that cycle match is probably the worst thing for me this year.
Adrian?
Yeah, cycles, hey, they can be horrid. I also get into that cycle, and unfortunately, like Jason was saying, when you're in that space, like I do the same thing. I work so hard. I work unruly hours. You're getting home at like 3 o'clock. You got to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do the next gig. You work from that, and you work 24 hours through. Then you got like a day off to kind of recover. Then you got to be back on your feet and go. And you just don't have the time to kind of look after yourself in a better sense of the word. And it does let you down. It does give you. It breaks down your morale, I sometimes, like now, I'm absolutely finished. It has been a cracker since September. We've had an incredible run. It's been phenomenal. I managed to buy a new vehicle. So I'm definitely not complaining about the year. I just say we've had to adjust to people's their spending habits. You know, it's people aren't quoting, they're not doing the same thing. So I'm not quoting as high. You're making a bit less money. It's a lot more work. Definitely not complaining about it though. You know, we've had a hectic season, and I'm very, very grateful. You know, it comes through hard work, and you know the hard work's been done before this to ensure that, you know, when you do come back out of a pandemic like we have, well, bullshit pandemic, if you want to call it that, definitely not worth locking the whole earth down. But yeah, we're happy, and we're back on track, and you know it's gonna. I need some time off just to kind of gain my strength again, and come back with new ideas, and you know get back on the marketing ideas, and use some of Matt Brown's talents to push my business forward. And you know we'll reconnect in the new year. I'm definitely going to take some time off, spend some well-earned time with my kids. They need my attention when I do have time for them. And Jackson's always asking, "Oh, Dad, can you come play with me?" I'm like, boy, I'm so buggered. It's an effort for me to get off the bed to go eat or to go to the toilet. You know what I mean? I'm that tired, and it's unfair on them, and it makes me feel like not a good enough father. And that's, I think, a bit of a sore subject for me. You know, when you are involved in this kind of space, when you have to work this hard, you know, it doesn't last forever. I've you know, my winter months are very easy, and you know, January is a pretty easy month, so I will get my time back with them. But, you know, you can never get that amount of time back with him. So, you know, I look forward to my time off and regathering and just enjoying like, you know, the good things in life for a little bit before we get crazy again. And, you know, I just want to wish you guys the best for 2023. You know, we're all very positive guys. I don't think much can stand in our way. You know, if you do get depressed, you know, we chat. Don't feel it's a lust to, you know, just drop a message and say, how's it going? You know, what can we do together to make it better? You know what I mean? We're best friends. And I think, you know, it's obviously evident that we're doing this podcast again, and our little holiday in Plett, which was just phenomenal. You know, like I've never been away with my best mates ever, ever. So it was amazing. You know, it actually can bring a tear to my eye, because I know it's not going to happen for a very long time. Sorry, I'm a bit emotional. But yeah, I love you guys.
Yeah, we love you too, buddy.
Oh, we love you too.
You know, you know what? Do you know what I dream about? Hey, is you guys. I dream about you guys here. I don't dream about us together there. I dream about you guys, your family here. Because, you know, and I wasn't being disingenuous when I said that when I'm at a place, you know, let's just say there were no barriers, I would literally fly you motherfuckers and your family over here for a month to experience this place, because it's the kind of thing that gives you perspective. And that's what I love about just traveling. You know, it's like, oh shit, I think life's about this, and then like you experience something novel and different, and you leave with a new perspective, and you go, oh, actually life's not like that, it's actually about this, you know. And so that's what I dream about, is having, you know, you guys here, not like permanently. Maybe that's not a reality, but you know, but to have us all and the family here, like I think that for me is a perfectionist, idealist dream that I have, you know, or that I've created in the last, like I would say, 3 months or so.
We're coming, buddy. We're definitely coming. Just give us a little bit of time.
yeah, exactly. So guys, what are you grateful for? It is the Christmas show. So then we'll do this one, and then we'll wrap up. What are you grateful for and or thankful for in your lives right now?
Should I start?
Friends, family, health, bro. Friends, family, health. It's always the same for me. Maybe it's a good
What
thing.
is the first
I don't
one?
know.
Friends.
Friends, family. Speaking of family, what do you want? See, I love my kids. What the fuck do you want? Can't you see I'm busy? Can't you see that's work?
Hey, boy.
Hey, Sax.
Hello. So hello.
It's getting big,
So
eh?
how's it?
Hello.
Hey, buddy. Hey,
enjoying the
Sax.
swim?
Welcome. It's your first time on the Matt Brown Show. You know, in 20 years' time, you're going to have Reagan, Frank, Saxon, and Sloan, Jackson,
Summer,
Summer,
Lily, Aiden.
Lily, Aiden, like all doing their own show. friends, family, health. There, Jason.
Yeah, I'm super grateful
Okay.
for my family, and this is like the Christmas that we have coming up now is my first Christmas where Lily is old enough to know like what's happening around her. 'Cause, like, even when you guys saw her in March, she was still a little bit too small. She couldn't really speak much, and she was only like, I don't know, 1.5, I don't know. Yeah. So she's just past 2, and she's running around. She's saying full sentences. She's like a little crazy thing. This is her first Christmas where she's running around. Every time she sees a tree or a decoration, she just shouts out, Christmas, Christmas, and she runs up to the trees and anything she can find. So it's really cool. I'm excited to have a Christmas where we have this little family unit, and she opens up presents, and it's not just, oh, a box. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. You know what I mean? So she'll open up little gifts, and it's very exciting for all of us, for me and Aiden and Jamie and Lily, to have this like little, we have a little family unit going down now. So yeah, and obviously I'm grateful for friends, but the problem is I don't see them. This is the third time in the year that the 4 of us have been looking at each other's faces at the same time. Or the second time. So my dream is, like you say, for all of us to be in the same place. Doesn't actually matter where we are, but I would love it. Like Brendon mentioned that he might move to Cape Town, and I was like, yes, like, and just, yeah, like you said, it's not, that might not happen, but it's not completely off the cards. If they sold their house, maybe they would look at, maybe they would look at coming to Cape Town. I just thought that would be so amazing.
What say you, Brendon?
It would be so amazing to have his family in here. Sorry, man.
This is why I say stuff to people in private, because I don't want Adrian on the bandwagon, because then I'm letting him, every time the fucking sun comes up, he's going to take a picture and say, oh my fuck, the sun comes up in Cape Town. Because, the sun comes up here too, but he won't acknowledge that. So thanks, Jess.
Yeah, so it would be amazing for me if we all lived in the same place, a short drive away from each other. Because the one thing I miss is that the camaraderie, that just sitting, obviously I love having my family around, but it would be amazing to just sit with the 3 of you and just talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
No kids around. Not that I don't want the kids around, but just to sit around and talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And just do nothing together.
Yeah.
What are we going to do in Cape Town? Have you guys thought about it yet?
We're going raving.
We'll figure it out we'll see what the weather's like when you get here, and then we'll make a plan close to the
There's
time.
a New Year's Day party, so if I want to, I could work straight through New Year's Eve, and then I'll see you guys on New Year's Day, and then we go smash it.
You know what we do?
I'm not even a little bit interested in that idea.
Sorry to interject here. How fucking things have changed. You know what I'm doing? On the 31st of December at 7 o'clock, the Stormers are playing against the Lions at Cape Town Stadium.
Oh,
So I've
wow.
got tickets for the 4 of us to go watch the Stormers play the Lions on Christmas.
That's pretty cool.
On New Year's Eve, sorry.
Awesome.
Which is pretty cool, something a little bit different. Should be fun.
Yeah, it will be a joy afterwards if the Stormers win.
Well,
From them going straight to the Raves.
I'll see you there at 4 o'clock when I
And by
get
the
it.
way, he means he's going straight home to bed.
I don't know why
That'd be
you're laughing, Jason, because we're going to come wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drag you with us.
gosh.
I know where he lives. It's fine.
We'll knock on your window with a few snacks.
That was probably one of the greatest times, I miss those times, where life was simple, dude. I think that's how we all became mates, right? Like, so for everyone's information, so I'm fast asleep and I hear this like knocking on the window, and I'm like, what the fuck is it? So I wake up and it's Brendon and Jason. They're like, come, let's go. We're gonna drop pills.
Weren't you
I'm
like
like,
asleep next to Michelle or something?
Yeah, well, she
Yeah.
she woke up, was my girlfriend at the time, and I wasn't there. Yeah, those were crazy, reckless, irresponsible times, but they
Amazing times.
But they made
Fun
us
times.
who we are, and they created this bond that we've had for so long. And I do think oftentimes, like, it's hard, Jason, to your point, like, to make a friend here. For me, it would never surpass you guys. You know what I mean? Like, it just wouldn't, because it can't. Like, there's too much time. There's too much
history.
Too much history.
Look, I think you're right, but I think you'll see when your kids start going to the local schools and they become best friends with other kids, and then you become friends with the family. You'll find almost the same thing. It won't be quite because of the reckless times, as you so stated it. It will be different cool times.
Adrian, you make friends easily with everyone. You're like, when you go to the Spur with your kids, and the kids just walk up to other kids and start playing. That's Adrian as an adult. He just walks up to other adults and starts playing.
I don't think you don't even know me.
Adrian,
not anymore, bro.
That says, guys, I just made a new best friend.
That was 20 years ago.
You're still doing it. Everybody knows Adrian.
Everybody knows you, dude.
I'm a DJ. Like, I go there. My life was spent alone. You don't understand. Like, wherever I go, I'm going alone. And where I might have a good time at the wedding, but it's people that I don't know. Like, you don't have heart-to-heart conversations with people that you don't know. You know what I mean? It's a very lonely job in that sense. I get much joy out of it, but you spend a lot of your time alone, and it's not. I miss the time with my friends. I think that's a big thing about being in season is you don't get quality time with your friends and family. Like you do, obviously, in winter or whatever,
But I do agree with Jason. Like, I remember when I first moved back to South Africa, like 14 years ago, and I stayed with. I remember this one time. This is crazy, right? So I was building another business, and I went to bed, and it was just me. Like, I still left Adrian and the crew at this bar in Tableview. And I went to bed, and the house was clean, and no one was there. And I was like, cool, I'm going to get a good night's rest. I woke up. I woke up the next morning, and I'm like, I had to double take because I'm like, wait, did I?
You're lucky you slept through the night.
Oh my God. Like, the decks were out. There were bags everywhere, empty beer bottles, cigarettes, like shit show, absolute debauchery. And I slept through the entire thing.
You're lucky because when those parties would happen, there would always be at least 2 or 3 of those people that would feel the need to come to my room and wake me up to talk to me because they're so smashed.
Yeah.
And it can be 3 a.m, and when these folks are knocking on my window or on my door because I also stay.
Are you awake?
Yeah, and actually when I come inside, they sit on my bed and they start talking to me.
Yeah.
Brendon's the only one lucky enough not to have lived with me.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me of the time, Matt. I don't know what made me think about it, but you said you're away and then you came back. And I was living in Pretoria. I just moved from Cape Town to Pretoria before I even moved to Gerber. Do you remember? And I think you were also traveling and you came back and you came to Pretoria for whatever reason. Or did I come visit you? No, I think you came to visit me. And I hadn't seen Matt in ages. And we were like, like it started so sensible. We're like, I've got a Weaver. Let's go get a nice spatchcock chicken. We'll do a chicken and have a few cold ones. We woke up the next day. The spatchcock chicken was in the plastic on the fire and melted. There was like vomit down my side of the thing. Then I went to the other side of the car. There was vomit down that side of the car. Remember that, Matthew?
Yeah.
What? No.
Do you remember waking up?
I do remember that. Yeah, it was actually, you came to visit me for a quiet braai because I just moved up to Joburg from Cape Town. And then, it was, we've had so many, to be honest, like, I don't miss the consequences.
No.
Fuck.
Like, that's a real thing, man. And, and I think I kind of got onto the sobriety train when Frank was born. So he turns 8 in January. And it was the best decision I ever made. Like, I don't mind the occasional edible or whatever, but like the lifestyle of it, I think you can't.
It's not appealing at all.
It's terrible. It sucks. You can't. It's horrible. Like, I actually don't. And and I know it's a real source of pride for my wife. Like on Christmas Day, we're going to like a family friend and the husband of the person that we're going to. I haven't met. I've met her. I've met the wife. Haven't met the husband, and he's also an addictive personality, but struggling with it. And and like I would say, like all the real great things in my life, like apart from like with the formative years, has happened as a consequence, of making that decision, and using substances of any kind to cope, is not a good idea. Like to Jason's point, like rather choose, hardcore exercise, do things that scare you, like Adrian, dude, like that picture you sent that you on your WhatsApp, like where you hanging off a mountain cliff, bro, like that. That's
my escapism and my joy in my life that I get. That's like my own time. When I've got that time alone, it's like the best thing in the world, because you're just locked into what you're doing. There's nothing else that matters. Because if anything else mattered while you're on the wall, you'd fall and you'd probably die.
Yeah, I mean, and it's an amazing coping skill, right? It's a skill. And I think, like, I don't know how you feel about my next statement, but my dad never taught me how to cope with life, and my mom actually. It wasn't a conversation.
I don't think they knew. Yeah,
it wasn't a conversation we ever had. Matt, hey, dude, this is how you manage life or your emotions, or people, or here's what mattered. I don't remember a single conversation that was life orientated about that way in my formative years, ever. Not one.
I don't think any of us have had that conversation. Have you?
No.
The rest of you had that?
No.
And then,
don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, I had a conversation that looked a little bit like that.
Yeah, it was a slap. Like my dad was he was physically abusive to me. I tell him to his face, like, dude, like you could have made better life choices.
I fell off a jungle gym once and died. My mother hit me so hard I woke up.
and then this is the issue, isn't it? And this is probably another podcast for another time. But like we weren't taught how to be dads. Like how do you manage being an entrepreneur and being a dad and be effective?
You've got to figure that shit out on your own, I guess.
You've got to figure that shit out.
It's hard, man.
But
like
if good challenge.
If Frank or Reagan choose to be business owners one day, which I hope they will do, then I would hope that that we would have some kind of blueprint or framework or guidance around that, because
for sure.
It was something, and it was generational. I believe it was generational because it was the sins of the father, like no apple falls far from the tree. And I do believe like generationally it gets better. So that certainly is one of my hopes for them, that, I can only speak for myself, but like I would be a better father for them than
mentor father.
You know what I mean? Like, and by the way, it's why I do this show also, because, if God forbid anything ever happened to me, people die. Like I've lost quite a few family relatives over the last year. We know Aiden, old friend of ours, we lost this year. I know that was a big one for us. But shit happens. But if something ever happened to me, like this podcast is my legacy. This conversation, if Frank or Reagan chose to listen to it one day, it would give them, like, this is who my dad was. This is what he was about. And I think at the times, I think about, and this is another thing I learned this year, was I was in New York with my client and I said to him, I'm 43 and I'm feeling like I'm running out of time. It's like, it's the next 10 years. It's like make it or break it and da-da-da. And he's like, like I'm 53 and I feel like I've got all the time in the world. I'm like, well, but why? And then he said to me, he said, look, he said, when you started working, how old were you? And I was like 16. He said, okay, well, the average person is like 21. How old are you now? I'm like 43. So it's cool. So you've only been working your entire life, your whole fucking life, for 22 years. How old are you now? He's like 43. So how long are you going to live for? I'm like, probably another 60 years, say, maybe, if I'm lucky, maybe 30 or 40 or 50. He says, cool. So think about what you could do in that time. So you've actually got more of your life left today, all of us, than we've spent it on all the things we've spent it on. So this idea of putting pressure, like we're talking about being kind to yourself, it's like we have so much time. And there's another thing. Most entrepreneurs only have a real success in their 50s. And it's because you're learning, you're figuring shit out as you get there, most of us. And so we actually have so much time. And if you think about the idea of what is the leverage of experience, like I talk about, or I wrote about it in my book, like QBE, like qualified by experience. If you're an entrepreneur, like some shit you just can't learn in a book. You actually have to build it. You have to scale it. You have to fuck up. You have to lose clients. You have to lose a business. You have to lose several businesses. You have to sell a couple. You have to learn all this stuff to become the person, so that you can have a true liquidity event. And it was an interesting perspective that I think about, because it's like, I'm not in a rush now. 10 years is a long time. And I'm 53, dude. I work hard. I'm healthy, thankfully.
How old?
43, sorry. But when I'm 53, like I'll be as healthy as I am now, hopefully.
More time,
dude. And what can I do in 10 years? What could you do in 10 years? What can you do in 10 years?
What is achievable in 10 years? Absolutely.
Yeah, knowing
Anything.
what you know now, when you knew all when you were 21. You didn't know what you were about, let alone build a business, So
Absolutely.
Cool, guys. Well, let's wrap up. Thanks for being here, man. I really dig doing this show with you guys every year. Appreciate your time. Have an amazing Christmas with your family and those you love. I have no doubt 2023 will be a better year for all of us.
Thanks for the show.
From your lips to God's ears, as they say.
Any final words for anyone?
Take it easy, SA.
And I'll see Adrian and Brendon again probably towards the end of the year, or whatever date it was, in a week's time. It's quite soon.
Yeah, next week. Yeah.
And then Matt.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. No, carry on.
I was going to say, Matt. Just have a fantastic Christmas. We miss you guys. I hope you have an amazing time. The photos that you keep sharing look so cool. It looks like you're living a movie life, man. Everything that we see, there's like outdoor skating rinks, the Christmas tree hunts, all that stuff is so cool. So we'd love to see you again over there.
Yeah, maybe even over Christmas we'll go skiing or something. I mean, one thing Nina and I were saying, it's like we've achieved a lot in a very short space of time. And what we're really grateful for is being able to give the kids a real Christmas. We were worried about that for a while. And with everything, moving countries, is people don't get it, man, unless you've done it. So,
that's very cool.
So they, Father Christmas coming in hot. I'll send you guys a picture, but I'm grateful for that.
Awesome.
Cool, guys. Thanks everyone for sticking around. We'll see you all again soon. Have a great new year.
Love you guys.
Right, guys.
Yeah. Rock
Cheers.
on.
Bye now. Cheers, eh?
I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about.